To make this delicious version of poha, we're going to need two utensils. So one, I've got a mug here in which we are going to cook and eat. In the bowl, I will soak this 1 cup of poha that I am using. 1 cup of poha, in my opinion, is more than enough breakfast for one person. If you want more, of course, you can double or triple the recipe or halve it as you like. Now, to soak this poha, we are not going to take any extra time. All that I'm going to do is add an equal amount of water. So this is a 1/2 cup measure I've got in my hand, and I'm going to add 2 of these. I'm using slightly thicker poha, so it will absorb quite a lot of water. If you're going to use thin poha, then reduce the amount of water you're soaking it in by about 1/4 of a cup. So this done, I'm just going to put this aside, and the time that we're going to take to make the masala is all the time it will need for soaking. So in our cup now, what I'm going to do is, I must tell you, this is a 350 ml cup, so it's not a small cup. I'm going to add in some peanuts. Now, if you can add in whatever you like, I like peanuts in it. These were pre-roasted peanuts. I'm also going to add in a little less than a 1/2 teaspoon of mustard seed or rye or sarson, some red chili powder, about the 1/8 of a teaspoon. If you want it more spicy, you can have more of it, of course. An 1/8 of a teaspoon of turmeric powder for some nice color, and a little bit of cumin seed, zira. So about 1/4 of a teaspoon of cumin seeds as well. Now into this I'm going to add a little bit of salt, about 1/4 of a teaspoon of salt, which is going to flavor everything. And to this I am going to add in already frozen chopped onions, which are available overseas everywhere. So I'm going to add in about 2 tablespoons of these, and that means no cutting and chopping for you. I certainly don't want to be cutting and chopping onions first thing in the morning. Right, that done, the next thing, I'm going to add in some fresh green chilies. If you want your poha to be hot and spicy, then you can snip these chilies into really small morsels so that you get lots of them in your mouth. Or if you want only the flavor and not the heat, then cut them into big pieces. I only wanted heat, so that's what I did. I snipped them with my trusty scissors. Now I'm going to add in 1 tablespoon of oil into all of this and give it a nice mix. I want to coat all the onions and the spices that I've put in over there to coat with the oil so that they cook evenly. Now at this stage, the only reason that I'm going to be cooking this is to soften the onions slightly, not lose their crunch altogether, just soften them slightly. And I want the raw flavor of the spices to go away. And I want that cumin seeds should pop a little bit. So that is all that I have put them in there for, and that's not going to take more than 30 seconds. Now, poha is an ingredient which is not available at most of the supermarkets overseas. You would have to go to the specialty Asian shops. So if you like eating poha often, that is something that you can take a small quantity of till you find a shop wherever you're going to buy it from. 15 seconds in, and I want to show you what our onions are looking like. They have thawed but not softened yet, and also the oil has not separated from the spices, so that means the spices have also not cooked completely. So I'm going to pop this right back in for the rest of the 15 seconds for our mix to cook through nicely. So while that is cooking, let me show you our poha, and you'll be able to see from the underside that there is hardly any water left, and all of it has got soaked, but our poha has not become mushy. It's still separate despite having absorbed all that water. So nearly 15 seconds up, and there we go. Let me show you now what our onion and spice mix is looking like. So you see the oil has separated from the onions and the spices now, which very clearly indicates that this is cooked through and ready for the next step. I've got some curry leaves here, which of course are fresh. If you can get your hands on some fresh ones, great. If not, you can get dried ones and they work just as well. If you want to know how to dry your own, send me a message in the WhatsApp group and I will tell you how to do it in less than a minute. I have put in the curry leaves and now I'm going to put this in just for another 10 seconds because I want those curry leaves also to crackle a little bit with the spices. Poha is made with a little bit of flavor difference when it's made in different parts of India. So if you're somebody who's used to having sweet and sour poha where a little bit of sugar is added, go ahead and do that, but towards the end of the cooking, once we add the poha in. Or if you're somebody who likes it just savory, the Indori poha, then you can add a little more spice to what we are using here. Some people like adding a little bit of cashew nuts into it or raisins into it. So feel free to do that. Some people even like a little bit of fried potatoes into it. So here, let's have a look at what's happening with our onion mix. I'm going to pull this out now, and this looks absolutely ready to me to receive the poha. And our poha is also nice and soaked now. Let me give this a little stir to show you. And I'm going to now add in all the poha because this cup that I'm using is a little small compared to the amount of poha that is got swollen up. So I'm going to do this in half batches. I'm going to mix all this through. You can of course put it into the other bowl. You can put the spices into the poha bowl and that would save you the trouble of having to do this twice. But you want to mix this really well. Otherwise, the unmixed bits of the poha will remain tasteless. So I'm going to add in a little bit more poha into this. This is really quite a lot, so I'm going to leave that aside and not worry about the rest. And at this point, I'm going to add in about 1/4 of a cup of water into this poha mix again because when I cook it again, I don't want this to dry out. And I'm going to give this another mix in. This water will also make sure that all the spices will get absorbed into the poha, which is what we really want, the taste to get into the poha. So let's put this in for the last 30 seconds. And I'm going to put this away since we are not using it and it'll get used somewhere else, not to worry about it. And while we're waiting for that to cook, I must mention to you that the microwave that I'm using over here is a 850-watt microwave, which is what you would usually have in your halls of residences or the flats that you're going to be staying in. If you find that you have a microwave which is of a higher wattage or of a lower wattage, all that you need to do is inversely increase or decrease the time of cooking. And if you're still confused about it, you can go to an online calculator. There are lots of free online calculators for calculating the time that you need to cook anything for. Or if you have a certain wattage of microwave which says X amount of time, then it will calculate for you what your wattage of microwave would need the time for. Right, so 30 seconds are nearly up. Let me pull this out now and you'll be able to see what your poha is looking like. It's really hot, so use something to hold that cup with. Let me just add in the finishing touches now. A little bit of green coriander for that lovely fresh burst of flavor. And I'm snipping this with my trusty scissors. And in addition to that, I'm going to squeeze a little bit of lemon juice. You can use fresh out of a fresh lemon, or as I'm using, you can use the bottled variety. It tastes just as good, and mix all that through. That looks absolutely perfect. Look at that. So nicely separated, not mushy poha, and it is ready in just under 2 minutes. And that can be an ideal breakfast to set you up for the day or a snack in the evening whenever you feel like it.